Hi, this is Jacqueline Lowe from Grace That Reigns. Welcome to the Fall into the Light series. Last month, I spoke to Henry Coda, and he brought us into his journey of suffering, resilience, and hope in a most powerful way. His daughter, Rosanna, participated in that dialogue, and when I listened to her, I knew too that she had an incredible story to share. So now, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Rosanna Thill. Greetings, Rosanna.
Thank you, Jacqueline. It's so good to talk with you again.
Rosanna's story is a story that many people can relate to. It is a story about love found and love lost. In this sharing, Rosanna speaks courageously and honestly about her experience going through divorce while living the Catholic faith. Rosanna, you have the floor.
Well, I'm very fortunate to come from a very devout family. I was raised with 3 other siblings and had the fortunate to go to a Catholic school and learn about, Jesus and Mary and just being able to learn what it was to be a Catholic and go to church.
You sound like you have a very good Catholic foundation.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. The prayers and going to church and knowing who Jesus, Mary, and Joseph was, and especially when you make your confirmation, for me, was able to pick a saint to journey with me, that Saint Teresa, the little flower of Jesus. So,
what was your biggest challenge that you faced as a Catholic?
It's really trust. Trust, I think, for me, is always an ongoing process for me, even though I am steeped in my faith, is knowing that God is in control. And I just have to remind myself of that. And because my will is so strong and what I want to do is so strong, but I have found that sometimes I don't make the right choices because of my will. And I find that I come back and I think to myself, okay, God is in charge, so I have to turn things over to God and have him lead me. And over the years, I'm learning what that is really about. And it's still a progress for me. It's trust.
And so how did the Lord test your trust in him?
Well, I think that later part of my high school years, I started going to college, and I started to move further away from my faith because I was out of the home. Mm-hmm. And I started hanging around, not with bad kids or anything like that, but there was a nightlife. There was going out to dance clubs and drinking and trying to go to school and hold that together, and being exposed to, maybe some sexual promiscuities and things like that, which kind of took me way far to the right. Mm-hmm. And but I was living that life, and I didn't think anything was wrong with that life until I started to find that I was getting a little bit deeper into losing my direction and what I was going to school for. Mm-hmm. And it was like a light bulb went off and said, I cannot continue down this road. Mm-hmm. And I met my friend Amelia, mm-hmm. who is still my best friend today. And we met at work. Mm-hmm. And we were both Catholic, and she had 2 Catholic girlfriends. And we started hanging out, and we started going to church. And we were in each other's weddings, and that's kind of where that turning point came in. Mm-hmm. And that's where I look back and I think how God puts people, I'm just telling you, people in the right places. Mm-hmm. We just have to look at it. And that was, I believe, a divine intervention. Because I think I could have gone, I don't know what would have, I don't think anything bad would have happened, but I don't think that I would, I don't know what would have happened. When you're young like that, and and I was no longer really being given direction by my parents anymore.
Right.
Because I was not asking for it anymore. I was already out of the home, and I started to feel very lost. it was an emptiness, right? And just like, I was like, what am I doing? It was kind of like a wake-up call.
Okay, I get it. That was the state you were in. So when you were moving back into your faith, is that when you met your former husband?
Absolutely. I met my former husband when I was 25 years old, when I was like getting back on my journey, going back, still attending school, going to school for nutrition, being around the right people. And I met him, and I truly fell in love with him. And a year and a half later, we got married, and he was also Catholic. He wasn't as practicing Catholic as I was, but he did have Catholic roots. And together we went to the marriage classes, and we were married to the Catholic Church, and we wanted to raise our children, God willing, we had children in the Catholic faith.
So you met your dream man who's also Catholic, and now you're interested in getting married. What did the Church's sacrament of marriage mean to you?
It was something that I took very seriously, and it was something that, I think that because of how important that was for me, he also viewed it as that as important. We were blessed with twin boys after 5 years of marriage, and we were married for about 14 years.
So I know it's not a very easy question, but then what happened?
He was going through a difficult time losing his job, and he started working, and he started doing mostly 75% of business traveling. And I was left at home working full time with little boys who are 3-4 years old. And I'm not sure what happened, but I think there was a stressful part of our marriage where, because he wasn't home, I was working, I'm taking care of twin boys, running the household when he's gone 75% of the time. And I look back and I think there was a breaking point there. And we went through marriage counseling. We were separated for a year, and then he somehow became involved with one of his coworkers. And I look back and I think, blaming myself, did I do this? Did I not give him the attention, whatever it might be? And
You should have never felt guilty at all or questioned it. But what wisdom did you take from that experience, Rosanna?
I'm not sure that St. Francis Loyola says this, is that we should not make decisions when we're angry. 35, 36 years, I was very emotionally upset.
Gosh, I can't blame you.
Right. And so for us to be separated, and we were trying to work things out, and he just didn't want to come home. But I found out why later is because he was seeing somebody else. And so I think he was torn too. I am not sure. And that's when I reached to my parish priest and told him what was happening. And he said, he recommended a Catholic counselor for us. And we tried to go to counseling, but it just, again, I wanted him home, and he just didn't want to come home.
So I guess he had an affair.
The woman that he is with now, he's married to her, and I knew her. Come to my home, her and her husband, and I knew who she was. It's like, it's like people who come to your home that who are around your children is now I'm looking at her with my husband.
I don't know what to say. How did you go on?
I never showed or shared with people, around me what was happening. Only my immediate family knew what was happening.
Okay. But then you mentioned that a lady who's your best friend now, her name is Angie, had a hunch, and she knew something wasn't right, correct?
She knew something. And she asked me, Rosanna, she goes, you're just not yourself. I looked at her and I said, I told him, I'm going through a separation, possible divorce.
Okay.
And she said to me, she goes, you know what? I understand. I've been there. I go, and she said, you're going to be okay. And so she asked me, have you heard of Sister Maria Faustina? And I said, no. She goes, okay, when I see you next time, I'm going to bring you a book. and you just take your time with it, and you can keep it as long as you want. And it was a Divine Mercy, and it was the biggest book I've ever seen. It was a gigantic, and I was like, wow. And she said, you know what, you're going to find peace. Just read it. And I was so enthralled in the book. I understood mercy, that it doesn't matter how sinful we are or how, much blame we put on, God will forgive us.
I know you were really close to your father, Rosanna. What advice did he give you?
He told me, he said, it's not going to mean a lot to you right now, but we cannot control people, places, or things. And I didn't, when you're in that midst of just, I don't even know if it's confusion or a whirlwind, you just can't think correctly. And I just started thinking, you cannot control people, places, or things, because my former husband, was also making decisions. He has his own will. I started realizing that I cannot control people, places, or things. They have to make choices too. They have their will. I do not own him or his decisions. Yes, and so, but that came through prayer. That came through, because the Divine Mercy, I have it on my front door. I have a little image my mother gave to me when I was reading the book, and it says, Jesus, I trust in you. And then the Divine Mercy image is what Sister Maria Faustina saw Jesus as. That's how and so for me, if that's a very close image of what Jesus looks like to her. And that's something I can look at and visually say, Jesus, I trust in you. Even when I don't trust in you, I need to trust in you, because I am here with 2 little children. I am here in this home. I have a good job. I have to keep moving forward. And I do not want to have anger and hostility, because it's not going to, what good is that going to do for me and for my children?
So at this point, Rosanna, you're reading the Divine Mercy about the life of Sister Faustina, and you're praying a whole lot. And you've now realized that a divorce is forthcoming. Was forgiveness in your heart, or was it too soon?
Well, okay, so that whole year of separation and then going through divorce, this is now like 2 years later, and then knowing that she became pregnant and they got married, and, all of that was just like, what is happening? And my children are little, and I'm like, so then, I went back, because we have Father Larry from Whitener from the church there, and he'd ask me, how you doing, and this and that, and he gave a very powerful sermon one day, and I just hear it in my mind, because you know how certain times of the year they talk about forgiveness and they talk about love. They talk about that in sermons, and but something that hit me was, he says, I think when Jesus was asking Peter, do you love me? And Peter would say, yes, I do, Lord. He goes, no, do you love me? Yes, I do, Lord. Do you love me? And I truly love my husband. And so if I loved him enough, I should love him enough to forgive him. And I have. And so I love him as a person, and I love him, and I love him enough to forgive him, because what the choices that he made, I have to forgive, because together, I believe when you're married, that's a unity of one. So I have to accept that. And that's, in order for me to love, I have to forgive.
Hi friends, you've just listened to part 1 of a 2-part series with Rosanna Thill. Please join me in July as I post the second portion of her talk, where she continues to discuss the grace of forgiveness and God's healing in it. This is Jacqueline Lowe. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if this recording impacted you in any way, please offer a donation to our ministry at www.gracethatreigns.com.